Hello again and welcome to Battle for the White House. This is your show where we bring you the latest in the build-up to the world's most powerful elections. I'm your host, Peter Stemmet, and here's a look at what we have in store for you today. Donald Trump visits Mexico and meets with President Enrique Peña Nieto. Hillary Clinton tries to maintain the moral high ground as she continues spreading the Democratic message across America. And we take a closer look at Gary Johnson and the Libertarian Party. Can they upset the odds against the Republicans and Democrats in November? This week has been a very important one for the Republicans as Donald Trump made an important visit to Mexico. Yes, do not be surprised, you heard it right. Trump crossed over to Mexico before building his Great Wall. But why did he do so after all the disparaging remarks about that country? Well, did he go there to decide on who's going to pay for the wall, or is he gambling on winning Latino support?
This is the fencing that separates the United States from Mexico, but Republican candidate Donald Trump wants to build a wall bigger and longer than the Great Wall of China. Donald Trump, who has been very critical of Mexico over several issues, surprised everyone when he accepted an invite from the Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto and in no time flew down to Mexico City. As expected, Donald Trump was greeted by a small group of protesters at the Angel of Independence Monument in Mexico City with placards and banners. On the other hand, protesters chained themselves to the Trump Tower in New York in response to the candidate's immigration policies, forcing police to remove them.
His tower was built by 200 undocumented immigrants. His new hotel that he's building in D.C. is being built by immigrant labor. And yet he feels that he can come out and disrespect us and say that we should be deported even though we're contributing to his all the money that he has.
What he's going to say in Mexico isn't going to matter. We think that what he has said before is enough. He's had enough hateful and racist messaging.
Standing next to Mexican President Donald Trump spent no time in getting back to his Great Wall talk, saying that a secure border is the sovereign right of the United States.
Having a secure border is a sovereign right and mutually beneficial. We recognize and respect the right of either country to build a physical barrier or wall on any of its borders to stop the illegal movement of people, drugs, and weapons. We had a very substantive, direct, and constructive exchange of ideas over quite a period of time. I was straightforward in presenting my views about the impacts of current trade and immigration policies.
But the Mexican president was in no mood to take it lying down any longer and made it clear that Trump's remarks against Mexicans had hurt him.
During the meeting, I told Mr. Trump that there had been bad interpretations or assertions that unfortunately had hurt and affected the Mexican people. Out of things he has said during his campaign, which I fully respect, that the people of Mexico had been offended by comments that had been made.
It was a day of high drama for both men who found themselves face to face after having exchanged criticism from afar over the past year, months after Trump launched his campaign last year by declaring that Mexico was sending rapists and other criminals across the border. Peña Nieto likened Trump's isolationist positions to those of Nazi leader Adolf Hitler and fascist Benito Mussolini. Peña Nieto has categorically rejected the idea of his country paying for a wall.
You just saw Trump talking sweet in Mexico, but isn't this the same Trump who branded Mexican migrants rapists and murderers and vowed to build a wall along the border? On several occasions and during all public gatherings, Trump has insulted Mexican migrants. Here's a look at some of those damaging statements.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
I'm going to begin swiftly removing criminal, illegal immigrants from this country. I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall.
We're going to have a big, fat, beautiful door right in the middle of the wall. We're going to have people come in, but they're coming in legally.
And this is going to be a serious wall. This is going to be a high wall. This is going to be a very serious wall.
There is a way to have Mexico pay the wall.
Under no circumstances would Mexico pay for that wall.
There is no way that Mexico can pay a wall like that.
I'm not going to pay for that wall. He should pay for it. He's got the money.
Mexican people, we are not going to pay any single cent for such a stupid wall.
The wall just got 10 feet higher. Who's going to pay for the wall? Who? And just so you understand, I have a very good relationship with Mexico. I have a phenomenal relationship with Hispanics.
Expreso mi absoluta.
And from now on, and right here, let me express my absolute will of collaboration to whomever is elected in November as the leader of this great nation.
Donald Trump has a new nemesis, and it's not a political opponent. It's pop singer Cher. In a viral video, the singer-actress is seen tearing down the Donald while addressing a jubilant crowd at a Hillary Clinton fundraiser in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Donald Trump has a new nemesis, and her name is Cher. The crowd went wild in video just posted on Facebook as the potty-mouthed Oscar winner hurled one insult after another.
And I think that if breaking news ever happened and he had to go to the podium, we would just all go.
Cher made the remarks at a Hillary Clinton fundraiser in Provincetown, Massachusetts. She even compared him to two of history's most notorious monsters.
I was thinking, all despots, stolen Hitler.
Meanwhile, the Democrats kept a low profile this week, but that does not mean their presidential candidate Hillary Clinton missed out on any opportunity of bashing Donald Trump. Clinton spent most of her time in talk shows and fundraisers.
There was not much brouhaha in the camp of Hillary Clinton this week. All looked silent until Fox News poll showed Donald Trump tightening the gap between himself and Hillary Clinton in the presidential election. Clinton received 48% support to Trump's 42%, a smaller gap than the 10% spread in the same poll earlier this month. Soon after this, Hillary Clinton became very vocal and started bashing Donald Trump. Clinton targeted Trump on his historic trip to Mexico. She went on to say that it certainly takes more than trying to make up for a year of insults and insinuations by dropping in on Mexico for a few hours and then flying back home.
You don't build a coalition by insulting our friends or acting like a loose cannon. You do it by putting in the slow, hard work of building relationships. Getting countries working together was my job every day as your Secretary of State. It's more than a photo op. It takes consistency and reliability. Actually, it's just like building personal relationships. People have to get to know that they can count on you, that you won't say one thing one day and something totally different the next. And it certainly takes more than trying to make up for a year of insults and insinuations by dropping in on our neighbors for a few hours and then flying home again. That is not how it works. American leadership means leading with our values, in pursuance of our interests, in protection of our security. At our best, the United States is the global force for freedom, justice, and human dignity.
This was not all. Hillary Clinton also hit out against Trump's charges that she is physically unfit for the White House. Speaking during an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Clinton said she doesn't question Trump's health. She believes he's as healthy as a horse.
Well, this has become one of their themes. Here, you take my pulse while I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Make sure I'm alive.
Oh my God, there's nothing there.
There's nothing there. What can I say? It's, back in October, the National Enquirer said I would be dead in 6 months.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy.
So with every breath I take, I feel like it's a
You have a new lease on life.
Yeah, a new lease on life.
It's funny,
I don't know why they are saying this. I think, on the one hand, it's part of the wacky strategy. Just say all these crazy things, and maybe you can get some people to believe you. On the other hand, it just absolutely makes no sense. And I don't go around questioning Donald Trump's health. I mean, as far as I can tell, he's as healthy as a horse.
Well, his doctor said he had the best health medical examination he's ever seen in a human being.
Yeah, I saw that.
Can you open this jar of pickles? This has not been tampered with. This is... you did get it.
If this was not enough, Clinton's team immediately rushed into action and came out with a propaganda video warning U.S. nationals as to what they could face if Trump became the president of the most powerful nation in the world.
There certainly can be a softening.
No longer can
I've
be
had
deported.
people say it's a hardening, actually. You're going to have a deportation force. We have at least 11 million people in this country that came in illegally. They will go out. They have to go. They have to go. They're going to be deported. Look, we either have a country or we don't.
I will build a great, great wall.
We'll call it the Great Wall of Trump.
With Trump closing in on Hillary every single week, Hillary will have to give something concrete to U.S. citizens rather than mere Trump bashing.
It's my pleasure now to introduce this week's guest. We are joined via Skype by Senator Mike Gravel from California. Gravel served as senator from Alaska between 1969 and 1981 and also ran for president in 2008. Senator, thank you so much for your time and welcome to Battle for the White House. Firstly, what have you made of Donald Trump's rhetoric?
Trump, you have to appreciate, is a creation of the media. And his campaign, which is the most unusual campaign in American history, is totally unconventional. And the media finds him very interesting, and so they just feature him ad nauseum. It's unbelievable how the mainstream media in the United States has just responded to every little burp that he's put out. And this, of course, gives him high visibility. And as you well know in communications, particularly video communications, if you have high visibility, you have the celebrity status, you have your name is overwhelmingly known. And so that's what he's riding on. As far as the substance, many Americans are just totally distressed and embarrassed over the way he handles himself. But it's entertaining. And so if you've got a choice between a boring political candidate and an entertaining chap, people gravitate towards the entertainment. But when push comes to shove, will they overcome their problems of understanding that he can be a bit of a loose cannon or a narcissistic fool?
The general feeling was that once Trump comes up against seasoned politicians in a debate environment, he would be exposed. However, that hasn't happened. Why do you think this is?
Well, but they're wrong. In other words, he came up against seasoned politicians all during the campaign. You know, Jeb Bush had been governor and was overwhelmingly and had all the money in the world to win, and he destroyed Jeb Bush. Marco Rubio, and senator, and a popular senator in Florida, and then Cruz out of Texas. I mean, these were, and Kasich and the others, these were all, and of course, two governors. These are all seasoned, very seasoned political types who had the money, had the organizations, and Donald Trump destroyed them one at a time. So let's not get carried away that straightforward politics is going to carry the day. And I'm pointing out again. Let me emphasize: at the end of debates, if he does to Hillary what he's done to all these seasoned politicians, then it's going to really be a very question mark whether he could make the presidency or not. Now, Hillary, though she's seasoned, she's not nearly as seasoned as several of the Republican candidates. And of course, Hillary, the only reason that Trump has any validity in the polls is because Hillary is viewed upon as corrupt, untrustworthy, a liar, and the evidence doesn't come from Donald Trump. He just repeats the evidence that's out there. And so it's the way the Clintons have conducted themselves, where they always have these negatives lurking around. And now, more than ever, you know, for Hillary to receive $600,000 plus for a speech to Goldman Sachs, what is that all about? That is, of course, nothing more than legal bribery. You know, they pay her for a speech for a half hour, an hour, and they've been doing this to Bill Clinton for the last few years all over the world. And now, and they were doing it, and then of course now you have the focus of attention on the Clinton Foundation, where there's the emails that are being released, and believe me, there's going to be more emails released during October. But the emails that are being released show the conversations between various people, a businessman from the Ukraine, a prince from Bahrain, all of them donating to the foundation in order to get FaceTime with the Secretary of State of the United States. That of course is selling the office by the pound, and American people know that, and they're going to know more of it, and that's the reason why Trump is viable at all.
Senator, we'll continue our conversation in just a moment. While most people will tell you all about the Republican and Democratic parties, there are actually other smaller parties competing in the American elections as well. In 1992, Ross Perot famously ran as a third-party candidate and won as much as 18.9% of the vote share. However, Perot did not carry any states, but might have contributed to the benefit or detriment to one of the main candidates. Ralph Nader did something similar in 2000, and many feel he cost Al Gore votes, especially in Florida, thereby handing the election to George W. Bush. This week, we take a closer look at the main third-party candidate in 2016, the Libertarian Party.
Meet Gary Johnson. The Libertarian Party presidential candidate is eyeing an upset in November. Johnson was governor of New Mexico for 2 terms, and, unlike Donald Trump, says he wants to make America sane again. Unsurprisingly, he differs with Trump and Hillary Clinton on several issues.
President of the United States gets to either sign legislation or veto legislation. Count on me to sign legislation that makes things better. If it makes things better, I'm on board. You know what? If it just adds time and money to our lives and really doesn't accomplish anything, count on me to not support it.
Johnson is a former Republican who served in a traditionally Democratic state. He says his Libertarian Party offers the best of the Republicans and the Democrats without the residue.
Well, that I've got like the best package. I kind of put it all together. I'm fiscally conservative, and I'm socially liberal. And I also recognize that there is a terrorist threat in this world, and that it needs to get addressed. But it needs to get addressed in a way that we're not militarily intervening, which at the end of the day I think makes things worse, not better.
In order to participate in the upcoming debates, the Libertarians need to up their poll numbers, and Johnson is unhappy about the procedure.
Now, the fact that my name is not in the polls, really, that's at the crux of just how rigged this game is. In the fall, the Presidential Debate Commission could well say, oh, Gary Johnson, he wasn't polling all that well. What they won't say is he's not being included in any polls whatsoever. So right now, our entire focus is just being in the polls. How do you get to 15% if you're not in the polls? I think if I'm in the polls, I think my record and who I am and what I'm saying stands up under the light of day.
So why should Americans dump the traditions of the Republicans and Democrats in favor of Johnson and his third way?
Actually, I think it's an equal on both sides. I mean, I think there's a big 6-lane highway down the middle that myself and Bill Weld, as the Libertarian candidates for president and vice president, I think we occupy.
In 1992, Ross Perot eventually won 19 million votes and just under 19% of the overall vote. It was not enough to win a state, but many still blame him for costing George Bush the election, handing Bill Clinton the win. Could Johnson do similar damage to a Republican in 2016 and hand victory to another Clinton?
Speaking of third-party candidates, their impact has been fairly limited in US elections. However, there are two modern examples where they did do damage. Let's begin in 1992. Bill Clinton there on the far side, 43%. That's the popular vote number, but what's important in an American election is the electoral college votes, which you can see he got 370 to George Herbert Walker Bush's 168. So a landslide victory there to Clinton. Bush only garnering 37.4% of the popular vote. Ross Perot, the man we were talking about, 18.9%. There were some who felt that he took votes away for Clinton, but exit polling showed that he also took votes away from Bush. So a bit of a 50-50 there. Let's move on to 2000 and that famous or infamous general election, as we now remember it, where Al Gore was beaten by George Walker Bush, the son of Bush Sr. There you can see in the popular vote, Al Gore actually beat Bush 48.4% to 47.9%. The electoral college votes, again, that's what's key, 271 to 266. That's how Bush was able to win the election. And then Ralph Nader, that's the guy we spoke about, 2.74%. Doesn't seem all that significant, but when you factor in that part of that 2.74% may well have cost Gore votes in 2000 in Florida, it starts to create a picture whereby you say that maybe Gore would have won that election had it not been for that third-party candidate in that election. Now, we still have Senator Mike Gravel on Skype. And Senator, you were a Democrat and also ran under the Libertarian ticket. How much damage do you think Gary Johnson and the Libertarians can do to the main parties this time around?
Well, with respect to the Libertarians, I don't think that they'll get much further than where they are. I know Gary Johnson personally. We run the same corporation. And so he doesn't carry himself well. My personal hope is, of course, with Jill Stein, who Dr. Stein, and of course the Green Party has no traction in the United States. But when Bernie Sanders pulled out of the race and essentially endorsed Hillary, many of his supporters defected to Jill Stein. And so she has received a great deal of attention. She's now getting media attention. Of all the candidates running, she is the most, what I would call the most substantial. In other words, she has a policy on domestic affairs, which is no different than Bernie Sanders, but she has it with a lot more depth. From an intellectual point of view, she is brilliant.
Senator, thank you so much for your time. Very much appreciated. And I hope that we can have you back here on Battle for the White House in the future. Now, you heard there that Senator Mike Gravel was a former Libertarian presidential candidate. And now it's time for a fun look at the history of third-party candidates in the US presidential elections.
In the minds of most people, the 2016 election is Donald versus Hillary. But there's also the Libertarian Party's Gary Johnson and Jill Stein of the Green Party. But can they actually win? A third-party candidate has not won electoral votes since 1968. Ross Perot was the last third-party candidate to win more than 5% of the vote. The Texas tycoon tore into Bill Clinton and George Bush in the 1992 election and even led in the polls at one stage. He eventually won 18.9% of the vote as Clinton won the presidency. In 2000, Al Gore and George W. Bush were neck and neck before Bush snuck home. Green Party candidate Ralph Nader was blamed. Nader won 2.74% of the popular vote, and it is widely believed this cost the Democrats.
And now it's time for us to take a look at the latest poll numbers coming out of the United States. And we'll begin in Florida, one of those famous swing states. Hillary Clinton in the lead, 44-41 at this stage. But as you can see, a lot of folks undecided at this stage. Let's move on to the next state, and that would be Ohio, a very key battleground state as well. No Republican has won the White House without winning Ohio, 44-41. Hillary Clinton leads the way in that state. Moving on now to our next state in the latest poll tracker numbers. Pennsylvania, 48-40. Hillary Clinton in the lead there as well. Next up, we move on to the state of Michigan, 45-36. Big-ish lead at the moment there for Hillary Clinton. And then we move on in our poll tracker to the state of Virginia, where it's 50-37. Hillary Clinton looking good there as well. And then we wrap it up in North Carolina. And there you can see it's 44.8 versus 44.3. Clinton also in front as far as that state is concerned. And then the overall poll numbers, if it was just a straight out popular vote, you can see 46.6% of Americans are favoring Hillary Clinton at the moment versus 42% of Donald Trump. And that is all. Thank you again for joining us. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter. My handle is @pstemmet_ANN7, and you can follow the channel at ANN7TV. We look forward to your company again next week as we continue to bring you the latest in the battle for the White House.